Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, the show Stranger Things is based on his morning bathroom routine. My brother, Mike.
Yeah, I tell you, nothing gets you to know somebody quite like their morning bathroom routine. And mine has been called, paranormal, frightening,
Paranormal, frightening.
those types of things in the past.
Yeah. Oddly reminiscent of Goonies, very odd.
That's truly, and there's been a million stand-up comedians make this joke. That's truly what makes a marriage, is that you know somebody's morning bathroom routine and you're not so terrified by it, you'll run away. That's
right.
That's
right.
what being married is.
Right.
Everybody's asking
for our younger
watchers.
audience.
That's what being married.
Listen to Wise Mike. He's been married a minute. He knows. He knows what's up.
A minute now.
Yeah, you're old now. Anyway, on this week's episode, we're gonna focus on some Royals baseball, whether you like it or not. Okay, because who knows, given how they finished this week. But we're going to run down a recap of that last week. We're recording Sunday night, April 12th. We'll run down the end of that White Sox series as part of our weekly review that we do to start the show. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about how the pitching is carrying the team right now. We focus a lot on the offense and how much they're not doing. Let's focus on the pitching a little and focus on how much they are doing. Because right now, if the Royals get a win, it's almost entirely because of the pitching staff. And then, of course, we'll preview this week's road trip. They're heading east to face a couple of pretty decent teams that are maybe struggling, one of which is struggling a little bit to start the year. But hopefully the Royals can get back to it back in good shape this week. A reminder, if you want tons more content from us, all you got to do is subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack. It's royalsweekly.substack.com. Paying subscribers get 2 extra episodes every week. They get an article every week. And when school gets out, they might get even more writing as I decide to sit down and vent some frustration or something.
Call them features, right? You do some features.
I do some features.
Yeah.
It sounds like like I'm telling people stories. I'm really just doing deep dive analysis into various interesting things. And so if you're interested in that, royalsweekly.substack.com, $5 a month. I feel like it's a ton of extra content for that kind of money. Very much worth it. Also, make sure to rate and review us everywhere you can. Apple Podcasts, we love reading those reviews right here on the episode. We'd love to hear some Apple Podcast reviews. Spotify, YouTube, leave some comments. We'll get back and forth with you, and we'll let you have some airtime here. If you give us some of those Apple Podcast reviews, it'd be wonderful. We typically start the review of last week with roster news, and there was a little bit of it for the Royals this week. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the interesting things that they did to change the roster this week. The most important one was probably Michael Massey returning to the Major League club. He was recalled from his rehab assignment down in AAA. As a result, Nick Lofton was demoted to AAA Omaha. Mike, what are your thoughts on getting Massey back and sending Lofton up to Omaha?
Yeah, not surprised by it. We knew he was coming back shortly, or that's what the Royals told us anyway. Excuse me. Yeah, it doesn't look to me a whole lot like Massey's approach has changed. I think he's going to be relatively the same hitter. He does offer a little bit more offensive ceiling than what you're going to get with Nick Lofton, and you like the defense at second. But Michael Massey, to me, is still the same old player, at least from what I've seen, the limited time I've seen so far. It'll now be, again, more interesting. We'll get the answer to the question that we had before the season. What's the split really look like between him and Jonathan India?
Yeah, and it's hard to tell that so far. He hasn't really played enough for us to really get a good sense of that. But one thing we can know is that he's not playing every day. That's not what he's doing right now anyway. He would have to earn more playing time, I think, and the way he does that is by swinging a bat, because right now India is not lighting the world on fire offensively. If Massey could come out and really swing the bat quite a bit, be an offensive force for them, or be at least productive offensively for them, he might earn himself some more playing time, because right now this offense is looking for production anywhere they can get it. If they could get a little more production on second base, I think they would probably give those more time to Massey. They might even be willing to consider some sort of straight platoon between Massey and India if Massey could show them that he could consistently produce against right-handed pitching. But until that happens, it's not going to be any more than once, twice, maybe 3 times a week at most for Massey. I think that's about it.
Are both those guys in the last year of their deal? I know. Or is Massey last year control? I know India's last year of his deal, correct?
Yes, India's in the last year of his deal. I don't think Massey's in his last year of control. Okay, but I do think that they would consider whether or not they need to keep him around much, because he's getting more expensive. He might be just about to hit arbitration, or maybe into his second or third year, in which case the more expensive he gets, if he's not getting more valuable, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Royals to keep him around. And so he needs to start swinging a hotter bat because he'd like probably to stick around for a while. Mike, the Royals also did some stuff in the bullpen to ensure that they got some fresh arms in. They had quite a little streak of playing every day there, or at least using a lot of arms. They brought up Eli Morgan and Mitch Spence. I don't know that Spence has gotten into a game yet, but they did option Steven Cruz down to AAA to make room for those guys. What are your thoughts on that sort of swap of relievers for the Royals?
Yeah, I'm not super surprised. We saw Eli Morgan come in and have some success in his first outing. I believe that was was that the Cleveland series, or was that the series?
Yeah, it was a double header. He came in as the 27th man for the second game.
Oh, that was the Twin series, wasn't it?
I think
that was the Twin series. But Mitch Spence they're both kind of guys who can go multiple innings. We saw Eli Morgan go 3, I think, against the Twins, if I'm remembering the right thing. Mitch Spence is a guy who's been both. He's been a starter and a reliever in Major League Baseball before. And this long stretch of games that the Royals have back to back. They played all 7 days this week. Last week they played, I think, 6 games. They've got, a big run here where they've got a lot of games. It makes sense to have guys who can pitch multiple innings for you. And Steven Cruz was struggling mightily. He did not look like the Steven Cruz that we saw at times last year before he was hurt. And you couldn't keep throwing him out there in those situations. So, I think it's more of a thing just to save some arms, but we'll see what we get out of either one of those guys.
Yeah, and Steven Cruz should get really used to the roads. I-29 North. He should get really used to I-20, the roads of I-29 North, because he's going to spend a lot of time on them this year. He's the guy who has options in this reliever pool, and him and maybe one other are guys who are going to be up and down a lot.
Winder Avila, yeah.
Winder
Avila,
we're about to talk about, yeah. But Eli Morgan and Mitch Spence too, probably. I don't know. Mitch Spence might have to be DFA'd, I'm not sure, but if any of those guys have options, they need to get real used to the road, because the Royals will be using those. They've talked about it in the past. This is the kind of bullpen they want to have, one where they're like, we consider our bullpen not 8 deep, but more like 13 deep, going all the way down to AAA. And especially for a guy like Cruz, who wasn't dealing, who wasn't really showing that he was going to be a go-to option for the bullpen right now, you're going to be down in AAA. You're going to be down working on stuff. If you come back up and you have a few outings where it's like, this guy looks dominant, they may be a little more hesitant to send you down and bring up Eli Morgan to exercise your option and things like that. But until then, yeah, you can expect to be on the bus to Omaha quite often. Mike, you just mentioned him. The Royals also optioned Winder Avila, who came up initially to fill a starter's role. It wasn't real clear what he was going to do long-term at the major league level. What are your thoughts on what we've seen from Avila and the fact that they sent him back to Omaha?
Well, you don't think they make him take the bus, do you?
No, I doubt they take the bus.
That'd be mean.
They have cars. They probably just hop in their cars and drive.
Greyhound coming through. Here's your ticket. Ugh, that's a tough one. No, Winder Avila, good thing that he's probably going down. Maybe you continue to have him start in AAA, but I think he's another one like Cruz who's going to be up and down just a ton in whatever role the Royals kind of need him. Wish we had seen better out of the starting rotation, but maybe it's more of a piece of the picture. Maybe Winder Avila is not cut out to be a starter in Major League Baseball. We still don't have enough information on that yet, I don't think. But we've seen now a couple of appearances starting or in long relief situations, and they haven't been great. We know he can handle we have a pretty good idea that he can handle relief pitching in Major League Baseball, and that his stuff may play up a little bit in those situations. So I'm still not worried. Like, keep him down there, keep him starting, see what you get out of him. And then we can figure that out as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think the Royals will just be ready to, excuse me, the Royals will just be ready to bring him up when they need him and utilize him in whatever way they need to utilize him. I think in the back of their mind, there may be like, 20% chance he's a starter in the future, but they're kind of realizing, you're seeing when he came out and started for the Royals, you're seeing the issues he had at AAA too. They're the same issues, right? Like walking a ton of guys, stuff doesn't play up quite as much as it does in the bullpen. It's just not as sharp from him generally. And because he does have proclivity to walk some guys, that gets him in a lot of trouble as a starter, because he's like, I can't just strike out the next 3. I have to like work around, it becomes like a problem for him in longer outings, especially. So yeah, well, hopefully he gets a chance to do some work down in Omaha, comes up, when the Royals need him and is a little more effective. On the field last week, the Royals did their best impression of week-old donuts. Yeah, they're donuts, but it's not the same. They had the chance to beat a couple of division rivals, but they couldn't capitalize, going 3-4 with a series loss against the Guardians and a split in a 4-game series against the White Sox. That brings their overall record to 7-9, a disappointing 2 games under 500. Mike, how did last week taste to you?
Like a butt. It tasted terrible. Okay. It tasted like a unwashed butt. What a terrible, I mean, it was so, you feel like the Guardians are a team that no matter their talent level, for some reason, they're always competitive. And so you're going to have a tough series against them. Okay. I get that. You did not play very well in that White Sox series. I'm not sure you really, other than the pitching, you really didn't deserve to win the 2 games you won. like, let's be honest. So it does not inspire a ton of hope. This last week, 2.29 runs per game for the week. And one of the teams we played, remember, is one of the worst pitching teams in baseball. So that's not exactly a great thing. It's not like the starters that the White Sox were putting out there are well-accomplished dudes either. I thought for Anthony Kay, I thought he pitched a great game in that first game. I really did. I was like, that guy was pretty good. But he's still a 31-year-old who has a career ERA of over 5, and he's only ever pitched 100 innings in Major League Baseball. Like, that's a guy you got to hit. Along with the other 2 guys, or the other 3 guys they were facing, you got to hit those guys.
Really just the other 2 guys, because today was a bullpen game. So today they faced a series of guys.
And how do you not get to that? They're like the worst bullpen in baseball.
I know the Royals scored 5, but let's be honest. It should have been 9. It should have been 10, right? Like it was a rough outing.
They had a guy come in that didn't record an out.
Yeah. Because I guess they said he was hurt. I don't know exactly. All I know
That's
is
what they're going with. Yeah.
The notion of like 2.29 runs per game when you're facing one of the worst pitching staffs in baseball is really, really tough. You had 4 games to do well against them. You couldn't muster runs against the worst pitching staff in baseball. What are you going to do? What happens when the good pitching staffs come to town, right? Like, do you have to rely on your starter being Michael Wacha-esque every single night, throwing 8 innings of no-run ball every single night? If the Royals only win when they get excellent starts, they're not going to win very much. Yes, they have a great starting staff, but they can't be excellent every night. Some nights they're going to give up 3. Some nights they're going to give up 4, 5. What do you do in those nights? Right now, if the Royals get down 4-0, it feels like that game is over, right? Like just completely over. And so, yeah, not great what we saw from the Royals on the field last week.
And that was that last, was it the last game of the Cleveland series where Cantillo was pitching and Reagans got hit in the hand, and it was like, they scored 5. It's like, does anybody feel like the Royals can win this game? I don't.
They scored 3, and I was like,
they're going to be able to score 6 against this guy. Like, it felt like doom and gloom there. This offense has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, Mike, we mentioned it. That's why all of our strong performers are probably pitchers this week. Mike, go ahead and give us your strong performer. He seems like the 2-foot putt as you typically take.
Yes, I'll always take those 2-foot putts. You know that. Make some of them even. So what's up? I went with Michael Wacha. You said it, Michael Wacha-esque start, because he had 2 this week that were absolutely gorgeous. 15 innings pitched from Michael Wacha, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 10 Ks. That 8-inning outing, as you alluded to, was a thing of beauty. And even the Cleveland one, which is the 1 run that he gave up all week, was Stephen Kwan hit a home run out to right that was like at his chin. I don't even know how he got to it, but this guy was toying with the White Sox in a way that should be illegal in baseball. I mean, the way he uses the changeup. Now, generally speaking, if you have a good changeup, what they're saying is if you want to have about a 10-mile-an-hour split between your 4-seam fastball and your changeup, Michael Wacha's can be 15. And that's depending on which changeup he's throwing, because he throws it like completely differently depending on what works for that hitter. Is this going to be one that's got a lot of horizontal run to it? Usually against lefties, he'll throw a lot of horizontal run, one that's maybe a little harder. And then, oh, now it's a righty and I want it to be below the zone. So I'm going to throw it a little softer and it's going to go have a lot more downward action. It's a pitch that is so crucial to what he does and just so useful in the way that he uses it. It's truly like it's watching a wizard go up against a bunch of little kids.
Yeah. It did look very much like that. Like the wizard's just out there laying waste, just decapitate.
It's like he's like, sit down, children. I have some lessons to teach you.
Well, we saw this in Star Wars, the final of the prequels, where Anakin goes and slays all the younglings. Right? You remember that? This is what Michael Walker was Anakin. The White Sox were the younglings. He went and he slayed them all. It was sad, but awesome at the same time. My strong performer for this week also did a little of that action. That was Chris Bubich, who went out and just pitched an absolute gem in his game against the White Sox. We can say it a lot against the White Sox because their hitters are also pretty bad. So a lot of guys look real good against them. But Bubich went out and threw 7 innings pitched, 0 runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts, a career high for him. Just unlike in some of the other starts he's had this year where maybe the command looked like he was like nibbling a little bit and trying to be too fine with his pitches, he settled into like real aggressive in the strike zone against the White Sox. And why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be against this lineup? And he was, and he just showed that his stuff really couldn't be handled by this group of hitters. And he needs to be I hope that sort of gets him to a place where he's always that aggressive because his stuff is always tough to hit. And I think he could, be very successful living in the strike zone more, but he really showed it against the White Sox.
Yeah. You know, what's great about what he's done early in this year, including that, is the question coming off the injury is, will he still be able to get swing and miss with the fastball? And we've seen him able to do that. And his arsenal, you're right, is fantastic when that is the case.
And we always should have really known that he probably would, because he doesn't get swing and miss with his fastball because of velocity. He gets it because of induced vertical break. And that's something your shoulder wouldn't necessarily make you lose. And so, yeah, it was great to see him throwing fastballs up in the zone, throwing sliders down and away to lefties. It was a real treat to watch him. Not a treat to watch everybody, especially most of the offense. And so, Mike,
anyone with a stick in their hand?
Yeah, it's not great for anyone with a stick in their hand. Mike, who's your weak performer this week?
Cappy, Salvador Perez. And you went with the other one. I almost did these two together. Salvador Perez, 2 for 25 this week. 2 for 25. Both singles.
Awful.
1 walk, 7 strikeouts. There were no other stats to report. He did not have an extra base hit. He did not record an RBI. He was bad. He was flat out bad this week.
And it's killing me having him right in the middle of the lineup, right in the 4-hole right now.
And he's coming up with opportunities at times.
He is. And that's the thing. Like, Bobby Witt Jr. hasn't been great, but he's getting on base a little bit. And Maikel Garcia is getting on base quite a bit. And it's like, you're hurting us. He came up today with a chance to drive in a run from third with less than 2 outs. Couldn't do it. And I was like, you're killing me in that 4-hole, Salvi. We'll see if that sticks around or if he gets hot soon. The guy that I'm going with, Mike, you already kind of alluded to him, also in a deep, deep, deep slump. Also went 2 for 25, also had 0 extra base hits last week, and that's Vinny Pasquantino. Your DH and your first baseman, maybe, or I guess Salvi catches some, but 0 extra base hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. A little bit better because he walked a couple more times, but it's not there for Vinny right now, and he's swinging at stuff he shouldn't be swinging at. He's swinging early, way too aggressive in counts early, stuff way outside the strike zone, popping the ball up. It's not pretty out there from Vinny Pasquantino right now. He hasn't locked in. We know it will happen eventually. It usually takes another 2 weeks or so. And so, that's
usually about the middle of May, he starts hitting.
It starts turning in the beginning of May. He'll have like a 3 for 3 day. He'll go dormant again for another week, and then he'll pop out of it. That's sort of how, if past is prologue, then hopefully that ends up turning around soon, because boy, do they need it.
You want to hear something great or not so great?
Well, then no.
Vinny Pasquantino did not record a hit against the Chicago White Sox. Not a single one. Both those came in Cleveland.
That is rough. I'm sure he's thinking about that tonight. I'm sure he is thinking about that. I got to be honest with you. Mike, it wasn't the greatest week I've ever seen for the Royals. What was your theme this week? Probably something from a sad movie.
I went classic here because it feels to me like the offense is stabbing the pitching staff in the back. Like Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo and Chris Bubich ought to be looking behind like, what is that? what is that? Because it feels like they're not holding up their end of the bargain, like they're betraying our beloved pitching rotation. So I went to one of the greatest betrayal lines in movie history from The Godfather Part 2, where Michael Corleone breaks it to Fredo that he knows he betrayed the family. And here we go. It was my best Pacino. It's not going to
give it to us as Pacino, please.
If I do a better Pacino impression of just Pacino talking than I do of him as Michael Corleone.
Characters. So, okay.
Yeah. So I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. You broke my heart. And then he gives him a kiss on the mouth, which, hey, family. But just a classic line from a classic film. And who's breaking my heart? Anyone who's picking up a piece of wood that plays for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, pretty much so. Great Pacino, by the way. Way to not sell it too much. Like, way to not, because you got to remember in the Corleone days, he wasn't so Pacino-like back then.
Yeah,
he wasn't all.
He hadn't made Heat.
He wasn't like that. Like that, he wasn't. He hadn't put that.
That was a good
one
yet.
That
was a good
I know.
He hadn't been in Sensible Woman. That's why.
Right. That was it. I'm going with another classic film, what I consider one of the greatest comedies of all time. This is a couple lines from the comedy Groundhog Day. And if you remember the character Phil Connors from Bill Murray, at one point he is like very upset with the fact that he keeps repeating the same day. It's kind of a classic repeat the same day movie trope, is you eventually hate repeating the same day. But at one point he's still not really sure what's going on. And he goes down to speak to the woman who runs his Airbnb, or not his Airbnb. They didn't have Airbnb back then. His bed and breakfast, right? And he goes, her name is Mrs. Lancaster. He goes, do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster? And Mrs. Lancaster responds, I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen. I'm having deja vu. You know what I'm having deja vu to, Mike?
It's the same damn thing happened the last 2 years.
Yes, they can't hit with runners in scoring position. They can't hit. They can't score runs. It's too deja vu-y. I don't love it. And if you look under the hood, sure, maybe there's some differences. I wrote about those today in the Substack, but in the big picture, they're still not scoring runs. They're pitching, but they're not scoring, and that hurts. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
And why is that?
I spent a lot of time parenting my son and commenting on anime message boards.
Yeah, that's most important. If you're wise, like Mike, reach out to the professionals at Window Wolf for all your window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and pressure washing needs. Window Wolf is a locally operated small business with all the professional know-how to keep your feet on the ground and your house or business shining bright. I've known the owner of Window Wolf for years, and I can tell you there's no one more reliable for high-quality service. Plus, Window Wolf is revolutionizing home maintenance with their new instant price calculator, which gives you a free quote without a home visit or entering a bunch of your personal information. Window Wolf is making the process easy and the price affordable. And for a limited time only, you can get 50% off when you book using their instant price calculator. Just visit windowwolf.com, that's windowwolf.com, and use the code ROYALS50, that's ROYALS50, no spaces, when using the instant price calculator and save big bucks on quality service.
If I can get someone else to do this stuff for 50% off, I'll have much more time to get an anime-based arguments on the internet.
Yeah, which is how we need to spend our lives.
I like how I like to do that.
Be smart. Let the pack handle your pains with Window Wolf. Yes, the Royals offense hasn't been good, but we've trodden that ground quite a bit. How much can you talk about the offense, really? Perhaps it's time to consider the unit that's actually carrying the Royals right now, the pitching. Coming into today, the Royals ranked 11th in ERA and 2nd in starter ERA in all of Major League Baseball. The Royals' rotation, especially, has kept the Royals in so many games that they refuse to score runs in. Mike, as you see it, what's the rotation doing that's allowing them to have so much success this year?
Damn near everything. Yeah, they're doing everything that has been good for this team so far. They're 6th in K rate, which I don't think you would pick them that to stick. I don't think they're probably going to stay sixth in strikeout rate among starters, but because I don't think there's like a profile of guys that you say, oh, we got a lot of strikeout ability. We have enough, but I don't think sixth in Major League Baseball. But that's the thing that's been getting them. They're doing that. They're probably letting a few two guys on base via walk still, but their whip is still pretty low, seventh in Major League Baseball in whip for starters anyway, because they're not giving up hits. You know, the defense plays well behind them and that helps. But the fact that you've gotten, what is it now, 3 basically dominant starts from Michael Wacha. He's got an ERA, I think, of 0.4 or something right now. That's huge for you. Chris Bubich looks like he is a legit dude as a starting pitcher, like the all-star that he was last year, came back and looks like he can be that again. And Lugo, the fears we had coming out of spring training for Lugo seemed to be fool's thoughts. You're a fool, Mark, for not believing in Seth Lugo. And so those guys have really held us up. Noah Cameron has done what we expect from Noah Cameron. And so, you know, just having that depth and having guys that you can seemingly be able to count on there in the middle of that rotation has been huge for this team that is struggling in many other ways.
Yeah, I mean, mostly from the rotation, they're inducing weak contact. You mentioned that the K rate is high, but again, I think you're right. I don't think you necessarily count on that sustaining. What will sustain it, probably, at least to some degree, is the ability to induce weak contact, because that's what Wacha and Lugo and Cameron, that's what their profiles are really built on, you know, pitching, like limiting walks, inducing weak contact, keeping the ball in the yard, that sort of thing is what will make them successful. Yes, Bubich is striking out quite a few guys. When Reagans is right, he looks like he's going to strike out a bunch of guys. But that inducing weak contact has been like a huge thing for them, especially the middle and the back end of that rotation. It's helping keep them in games. Yeah, they're not scoring runs, but if they are only giving up 2 runs a game, they're always going to be in the game. They're always going to force the other team to play for a win. It's always going to have to be like something that's in the back of their mind. And eventually, if that offense gets going, the Royals now have a system where they can sort of use that starting depth to consistently be competitive. Mike, you mentioned that Lugo, we were so unsure about him. We were also a little unsure about Chris Bubich. They're both bouncing back from injury this year. What do you think that means? That it looks like that they've bounced back really well. What do you think that means for the outlook for the Royals this season?
If it continues, if they stay healthy, really, I think the outlook does look stronger because of that. You know, where Lugo was kind of the tough one because, you know, Father Time is undefeated. He's super old. He's like 1,000,000 years old. And so
my partner even comments on how old he looks on the mound.
He just looks older than he is too.
Like, I'm like, he's like 2 years younger than me, 3 years younger than me. And she's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, he is, but he spends his life outside. So, you know,
yeah. Middle-aged accountant is what he's giving.
Yeah. Oh, he's giving from the mound. For sure. For sure.
But you know, and that does still worry me. I mean, that's for both of those guys, like the long-term stamina. Chris Bubich has still never thrown a whole lot of innings in a single season. You know, Lugo being 36, I think, or whatever he is now, is substantial. It's substantial, guys. And I know he threw 200 innings a couple of years ago, but you know, you don't see a lot of guys that age throwing that much. And so there is still some worry on that, but I think the only way the Royals are competitive for a playoff spot is if you do have kind of bounce backs from both these guys to where they can be at least consistently, if not always, consistently guys that can give you a chance to win, even if in August you got to sit them for a few starts in a row or something just to get them rejuvenated or to avoid injury. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that might need to be the case too, because we've seen Lugo struggle as the dog days of summer wear on, right? Like, I mean, his arm starts getting a little more tired, the velocity dips, and when the velocity dips, things are a little more dicey for him. It's a lot easier to diagnose those pitches. It's a lot easier to get on top of his fastball when it's going 91 and 90 and not 92 to 94. You know what I'm saying? Like when that's the case for Lugo, it's a real fine line. And later on in the summer, we do have to sort of see that as a concern. And of course, you're right about Bubich too. He hasn't had a whole season as a starter in like 3 or 4 years, right? Like, I mean, he had them a couple times early in his career, but it's been a while since he had a full season as a starter under his belt without getting hurt. And so you have to wonder, like, can he go 180 innings? If they keep throwing him 6, 7 innings a night, he's going to make it well past 180. And, he didn't throw but like 110 last year or something like that. And so you have to be concerned with sort of what the load on his arm is going to be just generally. That's, of course, if they remain in the playoff race and they decide to keep him on, like they're really going to have to pay attention to what they do with him in those July, August, September innings. Mike, there's still some concern in the rotation about Cole Reagans. His season has been a bit weird because he got hit by that comebacker, and that caused some problems there immediately into the game. Are you concerned about Reagans? Do you think he'll be back to what he needs to be for the Royals to be successful?
Yeah, even before the comebacker that hit him in that Cleveland series, there was just some weird stuff with his first couple starts where it was like, hey, he kind of got roughed up, but he didn't really look like the Cole Reagans that we were, especially with the secondary pitches. And I think that's kind of the big key. We noticed at the end of spring training, like he's not locating his secondary pitches hardly at all. And he's getting roughed up and he's walking too many guys. And it just feels like that's what he needs. He needs to get a feel for locating those secondary pitches. Right now, his changeup, which is one of his best pitches. It's probably his second best pitch next to the fastball. It's something he uses to put guys away. It's a -3 run value because he's leaving it up in the zone and guys are crushing it. It's got like an over 500 slugging percentage against it. It's not a good pitch for him right now. And neither is the slider. And it's because he's having trouble locating both of those pitches. So if he can locate some of those secondaries, I think the fastball is going to be in a good place. I'm not worried about it right now. I think we get the Cole Reagans back that we're used to seeing. I'm not like concerned about the long-term damage from the comebacker. The team said he should be fine to make his next start. And before he got hit with that thing, I mean, it was a small sample size, but he looked unhittable before that ball hit him. And it was just like 2 batters or whatever, but it was like both strikeouts, just dominant swing and miss stuff. So hopefully we can continue to see that. We've seen it in flashes, but if he's not under control with those secondaries, then we're going to see just a struggle bus up and down kind of year from him.
Yeah. And I think it'll help as the year goes on. If he's okay, if he's truly okay from that comebacker and there's no odd discomfort or any wound or anything like that. Because remember, it got hit right back into his hand. Like the stitches can like wound you if they're hit hard enough. Right? Like you can literally get cuts on your hand. But if he's fine from that, as the weather gets going and he starts getting, because we also don't remember, like he's had some sloppy games, like wet games, and he's a real, like the mound has to be certain comfortableness. He gets uncomfortable very easy out there on that mound. And I think it helps if we can get into the routine of summer, the days start to warm up and he feels just more comfortable going out there every single time, more routine based, as opposed to these things breaking up his routine, like bad weather, like getting hit by a comebacker. Like these are all things that can get you out of a routine. I feel like once he gets comfortable, he'll start easing back into his ability. And I think that will really help with his command issues too, as he sort of continues to just hone in. He has had so many off days before the season started too. That it's like, boom, your opening day, you get shelled on opening day. And, second one's good. Third one, you get hit by a comebacker. There's no rhythm to his season yet. Once he gets into that, I feel like he's going to be on top of stuff. Mike, injury is a big concern. We know that. Do you have any concerns that, like last year, injury might end up taking down this rotation again? We saw the rotation succumb to injury last year and the offense wasn't able to keep up. Do you think that's a possibility again this year?
I do think there is a possibility of that, just because the track record for all of these guys, all 5 of them, isn't great on the injury front. Like every one of them has, with the exception of Waka, has pretty recent injury history. And Waka does have some shoulder issues in the past. Waka is also advanced in age, we will call it. We're not going to call him old. We're going to call you advanced in age, Michael Waka. Mm-hmm. Lugo is old, but, and like I said, all of them have that injury track record. Now, depth does help ease some of that worry, with Bergert, Avila.
Not with Bergert.
Is Bergert done?
He might be done for the year. I was just about to talk about this, right? Like just recently it was reported that Ryan Bergert had some sort of elbow discomfort and he was put on the IL.
Elbow discomfort.
He got a initial medical opinion and is going for a second one. And typically when you're going for a second one, it is because you didn't love the first one. And that usually means a UCL tear and it usually means Tommy John, right? Like, and Ben Caderna is in the same boat. He is going for a second opinion on elbow discomfort as well. And so it's looking like both of those guys, we don't know for sure. We can't know for sure, but that dreaded elbow discomfort is often a signal that we are headed for something UCL related. And
the Tommy John ghost is snatching up elbows in Omaha.
Yep, that might be the case. That might be the case, right? It's looking that way. And
no,
so
we still got
see
Avila. We still got Kolek.
Still got Kolek.
You know, the depth was something we knew we were going to have to lean on at some point. Knew we were going to have to do that. So, you know, but it still doesn't change the fact that the injuries do scare me a little bit, because especially if the offense never materializes, you need to put out quality starts constantly. It needs to be the, you know, division wins that we saw back when the Twins had dominant rotations but couldn't score a tons of runs. When Cleveland did it a couple times, you know, that's the kind of which we don't have the bullpen to do. You know, I just don't see a great path to the playoffs if you're losing multiple of those 5 starters.
Yeah, that's probably the case, especially given the depth issues that now exist. I mean, Avila has kind of shown that he's not ready for a full-time starting role in Major League Baseball. Kolek, he looked great to end last year, and it'll be great to have him as some depth. And Falter he looked pretty good to start last year. When the Royals got him, he wasn't any good, but you know, he at least can mop up innings and stuff like that. It will hurt if the Royals rotation suffers significant injury. That's just going to happen. Another little tidbit. Steven Zobak also on the IL with shoulder impingement. And so he was another guy.
Who's throwing in Omaha?
Pitcher. Good question. Maybe another starting pitcher who's on the Royals 40-man, but looks like he's not available right now if needed. So injuries, you never know. Look out because the rotation probably needs to be healthy for the foreseeable future. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All In Physical Therapy, who don't just offer the best in physical therapy in the Kansas City Metro. They also offer the best in summer speed and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to make big gains this summer.
Go in looking like Billy Butler, come out looking like Bobby Witt Jr.
If your child is interested in getting the most out of their athleticism, check out videos of All In's summer speed and conditioning programs on their Instagram feed. And of course, All In always offers the best in physical therapy for post-surgery and athletic injury patients as well. They offer a personalized one-on-one experience to meet your specific therapy goals.
And I have some specific therapy goals. Okay. I want to be able to catch a chicken just in case Burgess Meredith comes back and wants to make me a champion.
You can do it, Mike. I swear I'm the ghost of Mick.
And crap thunder.
Learn more about how All In Physical Therapy can get your body on track at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give these very nice people a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. All In Physical Therapy, your recovery goals are their number one priority. The Royals hit the road for a week-long road trip headed east this week. They'll take a day off on Monday before their 3-game series against the Tigers of Detroit. The Tigers have been struggling a bit to start the season, but a lot of talent on that roster. After that, things do not get any easier, as they will then hop on over to New York for a series against the defending AL champions, the New York Yankees. Mike, tell us about the division rival Detroit Tigers.
Oh, let me tell you about those Detroit Kitty Cats. Here we go. The Tigers are 7-9, which is tied for third in the AL Central with the Royals and the White Sox. That means the Twins and the Guardians are ahead of us. In game one, that'll be a good matchup in game one. 2 really good lefties in Cole Reagans versus Framber Valdez, the 32-year-old lefty out of the Dominican Republic. He started 3 games this year with a 4.76 ERA and a 1.7 whip. He is a sinker first.
1.47.
Sorry, 1.47 whip. I can't read. He's that sinker first guy, like a dominant sinker baller. 94 on the sinker. He's got a curveball, changeup, a slider. His strikeout rate so far this year is way down, though, at only 15.4%, as is his whiff rate. So he's not getting the swing and miss that we're used to seeing from him. The curveball hasn't been quite as effective, and his sinker is getting absolutely shelled. Well, that's good, because the thing that scares me the most is we have a lot of guys who are kind of prone to the ground ball, and he has been able to take advantage of that over the last couple of years. So hopefully we can take it, get under the ball. That would be great. In game 2, it'll be Seth Lugo versus Jack Flaherty, the 30-year-old righty out of Harvard Westlake High School in California. He's had 3 starts as well so far this year, but a 5.14 ERA and a 1.64 whip. Not a great start for Jack Flaherty.
Jack Flaherty has been absolute dog dookie this year.
And I know there were fans who weren't super happy with him last year. I don't know. I think he had maybe an uneven last year.
Awful.
The strikeouts are down. The hard hit rate is up big. Walks are up big. The expected ERA is even higher at 6.51. So chance to jump on a guy who's already down. Let's do that. Last game of the series will be Chris Bubich versus Keter Montero, 25-year-old righty out of Venezuela. He's got 2 games started this year and has been good. 1.74 ERA with a 0.68 whip so far. He's got a 4-seam fastball that goes 94, a sinker, a changeup, a slider, and a curveball. He's got excellent command, a very good walk rate of just 5.3%. Big time mixing of his pitches to keep guys off balance. He throws all 5 of his pitches at 10% or more, but none of them more than 35% of the time. He's also very good at keeping hitters from pulling the ball in the air, just a 15.4 air pull rate. So he's been a pleasant surprise early in his career and early in this season for the Tigers. Then we roll to New York.
Very interesting guy, Montero. I think of him as if Lugo could throw 94. Like that's a similar kind of thing. Because like Lugo throws a bunch of different pitches, mixes them up real well. Yep. After Detroit, they are off to New York to face the Yankees, who are 8-7, which is tied for first in the AL Central with the Baltimore Orioles. Offensively, you think of the Yankees as this big offensive team, but it's not really the offense carrying them this year. It's the pitching so far. Only a 95 weighted runs created plus for the Yankees as a lineup. That's 17th in Major League Baseball. They are getting an amazing season so far from Ben Rice, who's got a 252 weighted runs created plus. They're also getting a good season from Giancarlo Stanton so far this year. We'll see how long he holds up. Can't even open a bag of chips right now is a story from this guy. His body's so broken. Have you heard this, Mike? Have you heard that story?
Mm-mm.
Apparently he can't open a bag of chips. He's like, his body's too fragile or something. But anyway,
are you kidding me? Did he get hurt opening chips?
No, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I didn't read the whole story.
I mean, the guy's hurt all the time. I know that. But
he's hurt all the time. But he's doing all right now, right? Aaron Judge also doing well, not by his standards, but by normal human standards. Aaron Judge has a 114 weighted runs created plus. So the lineup has a couple guys doing some stuff, but it's not overly deep so far this year. The pitching staff, on the other hand, they're doing quite well. Their bullpen's really good. Their starters have also been very good. They're getting a great year from Cam Schlitter, a 1.62 ERA from him, from Max Fried, the big lefty, a 1.93 ERA. And then a guy in Ryan Weathers who kind of fell off the radar, was a big-time prospect at one point, fell off the radar there for a while. It looks like the Yankees have maybe rehabbed him a little bit. He's doing well as a starter, as is Will Warren for them. And then, as I said, the bullpen's been excellent. So their pitching staff, really something special for the Yankees. They're going to get a chance to take a look at that, see if the Royals can produce some offense against them. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Considering they couldn't just hit the White Sox staff. But we'll see. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Words spreading about the hottest realtor in the Phoenix area. This kid's got the know-how. He's got the drive. He's got the thoughtful care to help you secure your dream retirement home. And let's face it, Phoenix is a dream. Sun, golf, baseball.
I'm looking for a way to combine all three. Can't figure out how to get a caddy onto a 26-man roster, but when I can, we're gold.
Look out. Eric Oxer ranked in the top 3% of agents in all of Arizona for the first quarter of 2026. Why? Because for Eric, it's not about him. It's about you. He's going to spend day and night grinding to find you the house of your dreams and get you the best price for it.
I got to check and see if I can find one with a moat down there. I'm really worried about the Normans invading. I'm talking 1066 Battle of Hastings, people.
Find Eric Oxshire of West USA Realty online at ericoxshire.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Be wise. If you're ready to make the move, let Eric make the experience all about you.
Leave a comment if you got the Norman's joke.
We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just a Bit Outside segment, where we're talking about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Don't know if you like this segment. It's a real polarizing segment. We'll just say that. Some people love it. Some people hate it. We'll see, right? But we'll see what we have to offer this week. Mike, interesting week this last week, huh? What do you got going on?
Not much. Same as always. My spring break is coming to an end. Depression is settling in, but I was peeved today as I watched a small video clip or something on YouTube, and it kind of sparked a thought in my mind. It's a personal finance scary for me, a fear I have. Now, if you've been listening to this show for a long time, you know, like one of my passions is personal finance, the idea of like being able to save money, invest your own money, that sort of stuff. But one of the things that kind of gets me or angers me is people using like subscriptions as weapons and like quality as a weapon, right? So that it becomes harder to save your own money. And especially at a time when affordability of things is absolutely insane, and the cost of health insurance is an abomination in this country, and all these other things, the cost of automobiles and homes and higher education, all of these things are way, way overpriced and really hurting average Americans. Companies then taking advantage of like subscriptions or turning things into subscriptions just to make more money, or making things cost that have been free in the past, you know, and kind of playing on people's need for connectivity and things like that. It drives me crazy. Car companies are kind of maybe the biggest example, as car companies are now producing new cars that require you to subscribe to use certain features of their infotainment system, or their, you know, it's just tractor companies were like a great example of this. I think Congress has done something about it now, but John Deere was selling tractors to farmers that, because of the software they were using, you could not get repaired anywhere but a John Deere dealership, which, you know, then not only gave them business, but then they could charge, you know, astronomical amounts to repair tractors because they were the only ones who could do it. And so it just, that type of stuff, and then, you know, the quality of things that you make is so low that you then have to replace them. And the idea of repairing them just isn't allowed. You know, Apple famously did this for a very long time. Like, you weren't allowed to get your iPhones repaired by third parties because they wouldn't sell them the parts. They, you know, they would void warranties and do all these other things. And it's like, you're making everything more expensive intentionally for people, which I understand. You're a business, you're there to make money, but at some point you have to stop and ask yourself, like, at what point does the consumer, and if you follow the economics at all, the entity that is most tapped into consumer sentiment in the United States is University of Michigan. They do polling on consumer sentiment. Like, how do you feel about how much money you can spend and how the economy is doing and things like that? It's the lowest it's ever been. And since they've been recording it. And so it's because of companies like that trying to, if it's not in, you know, kind of blatant subscription stuff, it's related to that. We're reducing the quality, or we're forcing an upgrade. And if you don't upgrade, then you can't use these functions. If you don't use these functions, then it doesn't really work the way you originally purchased it. So what do? You do the upgrade for the whatever cost that it has. So that sort of stuff. And maybe this is just old man screaming at clouds. I don't know.
No,
that sort of stuff
not.
Really gets to me, because it's like the idea of ownership is kind of going away. Owning things is so hard to do now. It's like everything requires an upgrade. Everything requires the subscription. Now, that being said, I want you to subscribe to our Substack, because we're actually making stuff for you to consume. And I have my own subscriptions that I love. You know, David Lesky's newsletter, the Substack that he has, I always recommend that to people. the streaming services I use, Costco. I'm a huge Costco guy. I love that subscription service. It's not necessarily about subscriptions. It's about using them to weaponize as a profit mover, and when you're not really improving quality of anything.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, you're not old man screaming at clouds either, because I'm actually hearing stuff like this from my students, like big critiques of this whole thing of like their subscription burnt out. They're like burnt out on this notion of not repairing. They're trying to form like little communities just around the notion of like physical things that they can touch and that they can go into and buy and like things.
And here's
like
the
that.
thing.
They're trying to do that.
There was so much more agency when it was like that, because if I went and I bought something and it was mine and I owned it and it wasn't tied to something like upgrade or subscription thing, the value I got out of that depended on how I took care of it. If I took care of that thing, I could get a lot of value out of that thing. And that goes away when, it doesn't matter if I take care of my phone or not, because in a couple years, they're going to update apps. I'm not going to be able to use it anymore anyway.
Yeah.
Like I have to get a new phone anyway if I want to use the functionality of it. And so those types of things, just
it's one of those hidden
gripes of a millennial.
They're trying to take all your money from you. One of them hidden ways. Those are fun, right? I'm talking about something a little more upbeat, I guess. The Masters wrapped up today, and it was a great watch. I didn't get a chance to watch all of it all day, but like it was a good time to sit there and like watch it in between things. I love that. I like watching golf now, which is odd because I wanted to talk about this, because if you'd asked me like 10 or 15 years ago, Mark, will you like watching golf in the future? I would have said, hell no, that shit is really boring. Why would I watch that? That's stupid. But now
even though you like playing golf,
even though I like playing golf, it wasn't until like 10, 15 years ago that I was like, okay, I actually might like watching golf. Actually, it's been more recent than that even. And it's something that's very interesting because golf offers so many different ways to kind of get into it in some ways, right? Like you can watch it for like the technical ability that gets displayed. It's really amazing how good professional golfers are. You can't even imagine it if you're just some weekend duffer. Like the difference is incredible. But also golf coverage does a pretty good job, I think, creating storylines for golf that aren't like off the course storylines. Like they're not like contrived. It's like, hey, can Rory win his back-to-back Masters? Can Justin Rose win his first Masters? And kind of they create these redemption arcs kind of, or these different story arcs that are really fun to follow. And then they are cool to follow. And because we don't know that much about all the golfers, the same way we know like about Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce, stuff like that, they can sort of just be characters on the course. They don't have to be like people we also know stuff about off the course. I like that a lot. And then there's the added factor of watching golf, which is like best sport to take a nap to easily, right? Like the best. So I can just put it on a Saturday and I'm just laying there relaxing, doing something else. And maybe I'll just fall asleep for, 40 minutes. It's wonderful. When you wake up, guess what? It's still going to be golf playing because it's like 5, 6, 12 hours long, something like that. It's wonderful. I imagine if you did like an efficiency metrics, it's like one of the most efficient sports to be a fan of because it's so long. It lasts forever, right? Like, and so I just had a great time watching the Masters today and yesterday and some Thursday and Friday. And I wanted to show some appreciation and a holla to all my other golf spectator fans out there.
I was explaining to my son yesterday why I like watching golf. And I was just like, what I realized, and these are kind of related to your points, it's quiet and it's green. Like that's kind of
the greenness helps a lot.
I love seeing like the outdoor, even though I can't be outdoors, I love seeing the grass and I like that it's a quiet sport for the most part. Now, it's Sunday and there's a close tournament at the end, but it's really subdued and really chill. And we were watching golf yesterday and my son was kind of playing by himself and my wife goes, "It's quiet." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Isn't that wild?" Like I put on something quiet on the TV and now he's being quiet and playing by himself. And it's really weird that kind of dynamic. It's different in our house because usually he's going nuts or I'm going nuts or we're playing and it's loud all the time or my dog's barking or something. But then you put the golf on and you can hear the birds chirping.
That's what gets me.
You can hear
the nature. It feels like you're outside to some degree when you're watching golf. And I love that. I love that I can just lay there on my couch, but it also feels like I'm outside. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. That's all we're talking about. The Masters won't be on next week, so we won't get a chance to watch it. But you will get a chance to watch more Royals Weekly or listen to it or however you interact with it. Because we'll be back again next week with another episode Make sure to tune in then. Make sure, if you'd like even more content, to subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com. Until next week, be good to each other.
And go Royals.